While you were busy outbidding me on auctions, I was bidding somewhere else. Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up a set of comic books that I won at auction. And while I did win them on the auction platform HipComic, I actually won them from a different seller, not Infinity Comics. And I know that Infinity Comics has recently become popular among some of the collectors and other folks that like to buy comic books online. And one thing I will say about Infinity Comics is it's interesting to me. I do feel uninspired to bid on some of their auctions. And the inspiration to bid or not to bid really has to do with, honestly, just the type of books that they have. They seem to run certain, I don't want to say styles of auctions, but you can almost tell right away if a particular seller, and I think this is true for really any selling platform in terms of like a live stream or a set number of fixed books that are kind of grouped together, like maybe on eBay, they're all ending around the same time. You can almost kind of tell what the theme is. And in many cases with Infinity Comics, you have to be careful because the theme really feels like it's a collection of books that they just want to move away from. They're not really looking to sell a lot of interesting books and keys and even grails in some of their auctions. And I feel like over the last couple of weeks, they've had a lot of these types of auctions where I just am not interested. And there's different ways that I assess some of their auctions to very quickly decide whether or not I'm going to spend the time to prep, figure out what my bid ranges are, place the bids, and then finally attend the live auction to look at the bids, or do I just kind of let them run in the background and hope that I win and figure out how am I going to actually put together a strategy for how I want to participate in this auction. And when I am feeling uninspired, but I still kind of get the itch to bid on some books, I will look for other sellers on the platform. I've had a good experience with several other sellers. They do have some sellers that specialize only in slabs. Sometimes it's a mixture. And this seller that I won books from will not necessarily run regular auctions. Infinity Comics runs, I mean, it's a perfect name because they're running auctions 3 or 4 times a week. So there's always plenty of comics to check out in various conditions. But the other sellers, it seems like they have more of a one-off type of sale where they're putting up their books at auction. And this is an example of books received from a different seller that's not only not as popular as some of the bigger sellers on the platform, but the problem with the platform too is you have to pay to get promoted and highlighted. So you may even see in the list of auction events, there might be something on a second page that shows a seller that is running an auction that is ending on the same day, but it's not being promoted with all of the other auctions because they are on a lesser tier on the platform. And so if there are a number of events, they get pushed to the bottom. And sometimes you can go to that second page or the bottom of the first page even and find those sellers and participate in their auctions and find some hidden gems there as well. So there's different ways to do this. I just find the platform interesting because with eBay, I feel like all sellers are equal in terms of all the listings are the same. They have the same template. We're all kind of operating in the same format. And the tiers on eBay, when you sell, it really has to do with reducing your fees, giving you more opportunities to list. You can also market your own books on eBay for an additional fee. But with HipComic, what they're trying to do is set up these different tiers or views in terms of like how books get promoted and all of this. So what I wanted to do is just show you an example of buying from a seller that maybe isn't as featured or prominent on HipComic, and kind of what kind of quality or books would you expect to be able to bid on from a seller that maybe doesn't have the resources to do a lot of promotion. Now, if you think about live claim sales and kind of the way that that's run, it's a popularity contest. That's a big reason why some people shy away from live claim sales. It's why I don't do it, is because you would have to first build up a following and become popular enough so that you're not essentially just giving books away in order to build up a following and promote yourself. So let's get to the unpacking of this set of auction wins. I'll show you the books that I picked up and compare some of the conditions to see how they stack up against some of the other sellers on the platform. All right, so here is the package that was delivered from Just Comics, seller on the HipComic platform, sent USPS ground, and has, of course, well, I don't know what this, Fugiel, I think is how you pronounce that. And that what that does is it tells the person delivering this package not to stomp all over it. I think that's how it translates. So let's get this opened up. All right, let's take a look at the books. And if you see here marked on the back of the backing board, what I liked about Just Comics, similar to Infinity Comics, is that the seller had graded every book and gave it a grade point rating. And so it kind of gave me an idea of which books to bid on, where essentially I didn't even want to look at the book unless it was in a particular grade or grade range. And then, of course, I looked at the scan and did my best guess to figure out, is it actually the grade that the seller posted the book in, or is it overgraded, undergraded, and so forth. So every single book was already graded by the seller, and so now it'll be interesting to see how my grading lines up. The first book here is X-Men Red Annual #1, and this is the variant cover featuring cover art by Art Adams. Now, Art Adams has always been a fan favorite and a big influence on so many artists, too many to list, but definitely your favorite artists from the late 80s and 90s were all looking up to Art Adams at the time. And he's had this resurgence over the last several years where a lot of his covers, especially on retailer incentives, brand new books, they're the ones that pop. Even if they're not your favorite cover, they seem to be collectible. And what's nice is you can go back and find plenty of Art Adams covers here. This one featuring Phoenix on the cover with all of the Kirby crackle. And also this one is interesting, the cover anyway. It's inked by Sabine Rich, who is a very popular cover artist. She does a lot of store exclusives, so this is inked by her. But this was a fun pickup. This was a couple of bucks, and I figured why not give it a shot in a 9.4. And just kind of giving the book a quick glance in the bag and board, there looks to be a little bit of a crease or a bend right here near the spine, so maybe that's why the seller decided to move it down away from a 9.8 to a 9.4. The next one is Nebula #1. I always hesitate to admit that I play Marvel Snap. This cover is actually a card in the game. It's my favorite Nebula cover card. So I have it marked as a favorite. And so whenever I have Nebula in my decks, I always use this one. And so when I saw the cover, I immediately recognized it. Great cover art here by Jen Bartel. And this is Nebula's first solo series with her here on the title. And this one was a 9.4, 9.6. So one of those, not sure which one, but another pickup for a few bucks that I thought was worth it. You're getting these books in very, very high grade for undercover price. Another Phoenix cover. This is Phoenix Resurrection #1. This is the Art Germ variant cover. Not an incentive, just an open order variant. But as an Art Germ fan and collector, I wanted to pick this up, and this was listed as a 9.6 plus, so it has a shot hopefully at being a 9.8. But so far, these books look to be in great shape. I don't see very much spine or corner damage. Looks to be really, really sharp, corners tight. So that's what I'm looking for. I am concerned here. The pull with this, I don't even know what this tape is doing necessarily. I don't know if it's like holding the bag together or what, but I will definitely get this rebagged and boarded. But Scotch tape, just stay away. Don't use it. I only use it here. That's it, just to hold the bag closed, but nowhere else. Don't use in shipping and so on. The next one, very collectible, very well mass produced Spider-Man #1, cover art, interior art, and written by Todd McFarlane. And I collect this pose homages to this issue, and I wanted to grab this because it was a newsstand copy. This was listed as an 8.0 plus, indicated as a newsstand. I do appreciate the mylar that it came in with a full back to help protect it. I'll be interested to see what is giving this specific book an 8, and I think it's just the rounded corners here. It's very, very rounded and worn, as is the bottom corner. That's okay. I wanted to give it a shot. I didn't have a newsstand copy in my collection, and while these are very plentiful, they can still fetch a fair price, a decent amount, and was able to get this for under $10. Next issue is X-Men 290. Great cover art featuring Storm by Whilce Portacio. I've always really liked this cover for Storm. In a 9.2 plus, it's probably, a little bit of wrinkling towards the spine here, a spine tick there. But this is a book that I can regularly find for a few bucks, and was able to win this copy at auction for just about that. I would love to get this one graded. I do have a collection of X-Men covers and books with Storm on the cover, and don't have that one slab, so looking for a 9.8. This one was interesting to me. This is X-Men 509. Recently, I had a CGC unboxing, and my original copy was a reject. When I was putting the submission together, I didn't realize that it would be rejected at the time, but there was something that told me to maybe hedge my bets a little bit and pick up a backup copy, because I do love this cover featuring Psylocke, cover art by Greg Land. The seller had this at a 9.4 plus right there. And sure enough, this book was rejected. I can see here, this one has a pretty obvious stacking crease there that would have to be pressed out. But it's possible that that could be it. The corner here is very sharp on the top, which is nice. And then the bottom, this is why I don't use the modern bags and boards, because the bag is right up against the corner, and as I push the bag back, I could damage that corner. I always use Silver Age size so that basically the board is doing nothing to protect that corner, and I really can't stand that. And you can even see from the back that the book is bleeding through the board itself, and so the bag could, hit the side and damage the comic. I use the BCW silver size bags and boards, and I've always used them and love it, and then everything's nice and uniform. But that book has some pretty nice value in high grade. Maybe that one I'll send off for pressing and then off to CGC in hopes to get that one in a 9.8. Next one is Thor 333. This was an 8.0 newsstand copy. I did not expect this one to be a 9.8 candidate, but I picked it up for a few bucks, and here's why. It's an 8. Might even drop into the 7s. Yeah, there's even more damage up there. But I wanted to pick it up. Bill Sienkiewicz on cover art here. And this is a story featuring Thor battling Dracula, which I thought was interesting. So I love this cover by Bill Sienkiewicz. I'll probably look to get a replacement copy in a higher grade. So this may not even grade out as an 8. But it was cheap and wanted to pick it up. Almost like as a reminder, maybe, to keep an eye out for it, to pick it up again in a higher grade. Next is Web of Spider-Man #1. As an adult collector, as a collector who is an adult, I remember as a kid always wanting this book, and I now have a couple of copies in search of a 9.8 candidate. This was listed as an 8.0, or maybe it used to be an 8.4, or maybe it's an 8.02 and 8.4, or an 8.0201. I don't know, but it's a high grade copy. I'm looking for a 9.0 candidate. It's almost just like me going back in time and telling my younger collector self, like, it's going to be okay. you don't need to FOMO so much about Web of Spider-Man #1. But I was a collector of Web of Spider-Man and started in the single digit issues, but started later, closer to issue 10, and just never picked up issue 1. For whatever reason, I was a big Amazing Spider-Man collector, and then got into Spectacular Spider-Man and Web of Spider-Man, but decided to splurge a little bit on this one, as I thought it was a little bit better than the 8.0 listed. And from the looks of it, I think I'm right on it. I don't see any significant damage. I mean, these were both listed as 8.0, and you can see very clearly a lot of the damage on this book, whereas this one does have sharp corners. I would feel like just kind of giving it that initial estimate, it's probably around a 9.0, maybe a 9.2. I think this benefits from having lighter colors along the spine, as I do see some ticks, but there's one that breaks color right there on that black line. But this, the point of it, it's always collectible. Charles Vess on cover art, homaged regularly, just really a staple of anyone's Spider-Man collection, particularly if you're collecting Spider-Man in the black costume. It was kind of cool because this was the first issue black costume, kind of a fresh start. Not his first appearance in this costume, but meaning with Spectacular and Amazing already ongoing, he just sort of showed up in that costume while the story was happening, but kind of a nice start there. Fresh start with Web of Spider-Man #1. Okay, and a couple of Wonder Woman books to finish off these auction wins. This is Wonder Woman #10, and this was listed as a 9.2 plus. This one, kind of interesting the way this book is put together. It says that there's a special fold-out cover. It looks like there's some sort of manufacturing error or wrapping on the book. But yeah, looking at the condition here, what I noticed in the scan is, again, the spine being very strong, corners sharp, but just could have some general stacking, creasing that would need to be buffed out. But again, corner strong down here as well. And I just can't get over the George Paris art. Just absolute legend. And the last book, this one I knew was a low grade copy, 4.0 to 4.5 of Wonder Woman #200. This is a 52 pager, the weird wrapping along the spine where it's not square bound, but it does note that it's bigger and better, so that's important. This is collectible because of the categorization of this being a bondage cover. I feel like Wonder Woman's always in trouble, so to me it's not all that special, but it is a book that is collected. This one just might be in too low a grade to make it all that interesting. You can see a lot of damage and a lot of wear here. So yeah, if I were grading it, it probably is going to fall into that 4 or 4.5. It might actually stretch into the 5s. Typically what I do when I'm looking at books that are traditionally like a fine minus, somewhere around there, is the cutoff for me is looking at the top. And if the top is really straight and crisp, it has a chance to be, even potentially all the way up into a 6.0. But I usually settle in somewhere around a 5 or a 5.5. So I don't think this one is as bad, but again, we're splitting hairs here between a 4, a 4.5, and a 5. It's probably somewhere around there. And you can see on this edge, it's pretty rough. But to have one single edge be pretty sharp, it's probably, again, if there could be damage on the back that would definitely make it a 4.0, but probably somewhere in the 5 range. I've wanted to pick that book up as I do collect Silver and Bronze Age Wonder Woman, and it was affordable in that condition and wanted to go ahead and grab it. Now, nice collection of books here. Kind of comparing it to Infinity Comics in terms of grading and so forth. I feel like the grader here is more or less accurate. I think the one big miss on my part was Thor 333. I think there's just too much damage on that one. But for the most part, I think a lot of these 9.2 to 9.6 books did fall into that range. So pretty happy in terms of the condition, the listed condition, and then the price that I paid. Now, I think this seller does compare well to Infinity Comics. This seller just doesn't list as often as Infinity does, but I think same sort of setup. It's what I'm looking for, which is books that are already pre-graded or pre-screened by a seller that kind of puts the book into the ballpark. And then what I try to do over time is figure out if they're listing a book as a 9.4, typically on average, what does that book grade out as by me, or even if I get a book all the way back from CGC, obviously that grade will also play into my analysis and factor in as far as my expectations. And that's what I'm trying to do with auctions, is figure out what is the most likely grade if they grade it at a certain grade. And that's what I've been doing for years now. And as I come across new sellers, I want to go through a couple of different transactions and scenarios where I can build up that data and I can say, yes, Just Comics is a seller that I would like to purchase from. This is my second set of auction wins from the seller, so I have marked them as a favorite on HipComic, and we'll look for future auctions to participate in. Let me know what you think about these books and how they compare to other sellers on HipComic or eBay or any selling platform, auction platform. Would love to get your feedback. And if you're interested to see the final auctions of these books and what I paid for them, consider becoming a Moneyball Comics YouTube channel member by clicking the join button below this video. And one of the perks of becoming a channel member is that you'll be automatically entered into my monthly comic book giveaway, and you'll get access to a number of members only videos, which include the order breakdowns where I will go through my spreadsheet analysis and show you what these books are worth and what the books would be worth if I were to get them graded, and can kind of see what types of values I'm trying to add to my collection. Thanks for watching, happy collecting, and see you next time.